I find that there are people that have been taught to tear themselves apart at the expense of making other people around them laugh. There is a fine line between being able to take a joke, laugh at yourself, but not tear yourself down. And that comes from knowing your own boundaries as well, because I think certain people can take on a little bit more and others have, a shorter, smaller threshold. And it's just about knowing where you stand as a person and how much you can take and where you say, well, no, that was not acceptable. I'm not going to do that to myself, or I'm not going to accept you to be speaking to me like that. That was not funny. So when your emotions are hurt, to also be able to voice that.
Welcome to the Crown Yourself podcast, where together we build your empire and transform your subconscious stories about what's possible for your business, body, and life. I'm your host, Kimberly Spencer, founder of crownyourself.com, and I'm a master mindset coach, best-selling author, TEDx speaker, known to my clients as a game changer. Each week, you get the conscious leadership strategies you need to help you reign with courage, clarity, and confidence so that you too can make the income and impact you deserve. Imagine this podcast as your royal invitation to step into your full potential and reign in your divine purpose. Your sovereignty starts here, and your reign is now.
Helene, I have to ask, Greek mythology. How did you combine Greek mythology into your practice with female embodiment?
Okay, so we use different archetypes when we do the work that we do. And we embody those while we are doing our circles or our retreats and bringing those into the awareness of our attendees as well. So we are directly related to the Greeks, being Cypriot. Hence, it's within our blood and culture to be able to connect to those ancestors. And therefore, that's where the connection to Greek mythology started. And we brought more of that into our life and into the lives of the circles and retreats that we host.
Now, I love the work of Dr. Joseph Campbell with archetypes and mythology and the power of what those stories and myths reflect in our own consciousness and how they show up as lessons about love, about hubris, about all of the things. So what are some common archetypes that you're seeing with women in particular as they struggle through their challenges?
There's quite a few, starting with the victim. So there's a lot of them that play the victim, which is one of the most disempowering archetypes to actually embody and live by, simply because you take away the power from yourself and you hand it over to whoever you are playing the victim to. And therefore, it's one of the most common ones that I find women have a really hard time to even be aware that they are embodying. Simply because we have been taught and programmed by cultures, religion, society to live in that archetype and function from it, and for that to be assumed as the normal. Therefore, when we bring awareness to that, we're able to see how much power we actually have, and that we're able to take the reins of our own life, as you say, Kimberly, and bring back that power into our bodies, into our lives, and to really embody what we've come here to do as women.
Yeah, I think that thinking of the victim in that archetypal tent, like what I see is that there's a lot of women that, because this concept of being a strong, independent woman has birthed forth with the rise of feminism, that still is almost moving away from that victim mindset and that victim mentality. So we still are directing energy into it. even if we may be strong, even if we may be dependent. So what is the difference between being weak or vulnerable and being a victim?
I would say that being a victim is not having the awareness that you are actually playing out that role and embodying that. And being in your full power and understanding that you can also be vulnerable and show emotions and embrace that beautiful feminine as well as the masculine together, as opposed to needing saving from somebody else. That's exactly where there is a huge difference that I think has been misrepresented through social media, through feminism, through women embodying this strong masculine archetype, where in fact, the beauty of women is our beauty, our elegance, our softness, our ability to be able to use our intuition, our emotions, and to connect to that. It's something that's God-given. So we need to use that. We are vessels. We are bringing birth into this life. We are able to birth creation into everything that we do. I'm saying I'm getting goosebumps as I say it.
I know.
It's something that's been given to us that I honestly don't think men have access to in the same way that we do. So the more we embody that as women and understand that we have power in our emotions, we have power in our bodies, then we are able to hold life by the balls. I may say so.
Love it. How did you get into this journey? Have you always had this queenly elegance about you? Like you just radiate such a beautiful level of confidence, and I can see that it comes from within. Have you always had that, or where did you start?
To be honest, I thought I had it.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through a phase growing up and in my early 20s and late 20s as well. I think I started to realize I was always confident. Okay, let's start with that. I was always confident. I was always very bold. You would notice me with my presence, with, the way that I would speak. But internally, I had a very loud inner critic that when I started to actually do the work, I realized that I wasn't as embodied and confident and queenly as I thought I was. So that came with a process of recognizing where I was truly at, almost tearing myself apart to recognize, oh, shit, we've got some work to do right here. And everything that you thought you were, you perhaps might not be. Mm-hmm. And you need to relearn, reprogram yourself and understand, okay, it's not just about how you look and it's not just about what you say, but it's got to do with how you feel. And if that voice inside of you is criticizing you or second guessing what you're saying, then you need to change that voice. You need to change that voice and you need to understand how you're going to be able to do that. What are the steps you're going to be able to take in order to be able to regulate what your mind is telling you, what you actually believe? And I think that was the moment when I was able to break it all down to rebuild it in order to be able to see and understand why I've come on this earth and what I'm actually doing here.
And now you're in such a place of beautiful purpose and I mean, my gosh, scrolling your Instagram, it's like, whoo, she is empowered and embodied in the empowerment. And there is such a beautiful connection that you have to your body. What when you were doing the work, how did you do the work to reconnect to this sacred vessel?
So initially, my journey started with health and fitness. I was a health and fitness instructor. I've trained to become a PT. I lived in Saudi Arabia for 6 years, and I started my own business as a personal trainer. And I worked with the royal family of Saudi Arabia. I worked with women over there that were looking to feel empowered, but they would come to me because of a lack of confidence on the exterior. So I initially projected myself in that way, in the sense that the exterior was the way to get to wholeness. Now, when I started to notice where I was at, and I could also see that after they would do my 6-week incredible program and my 9-week boot camps, they would have huge transformations on their body, but they would still look at themselves in the mirror and say, I still don't like this muffin top here. I still want to change this. I still want to do a little bit of this. I still want to do a little bit of that. With every single criticism that I could still see in them. So with that, I recognize there needed to be some deeper work. There needed to be some deeper work. So although I was working with the body, and that was my vessel to reach a meditative state, I was using my body to silence my mind, because there were so many thoughts, there was so much noise, and I needed to work out. I'm a very high energy, high level kind of woman. So therefore, that's the only way that I knew how to release it, by releasing that, just like releasing the anger, releasing the stress, releasing whatever needed to just be let loose in my body. I wasn't aware that there were other ways at the time. And hence, with that came my role of empowering women. So I was not only working with them to change their figures externally, but we were doing the work to feel more inspired, to feel more empowered, to feel more alive. And that's when I recognized that I was able to use the body in such a way to, yes, help them up to a certain point, but there was another access point within the body where we could feel emotions and recognize them. And where were these emotions trapped, and how could we release them? And without, just lifting weights, which was very masculine to me at the time, but it was the only way that I knew, could there perhaps be another way? And that's where my own self-exploration began, to understand that the knot in my stomach, it's telling me something. The pain that I'm feeling, the knot in my throat, the headaches, they're all signals that we're ignoring. Hence, how do I bring more awareness to them? How do I understand my own body? What is my body connection, intuition telling me that I can also bring to my workshops, to life, to the things that I do?
Because the emotions are so powerful. Like, I too started out in fitness. I started out teaching Pilates. That was my journey. Taught it for 13 years and realized the power of the body, not knowing that I was regulating my nervous system simultaneously, not knowing that I was retraining my body from a very sympathetic reactive state into being able to actually rest and digest. And
yes,
those initial cues, because a lot of people come from the perception of, oh, it's just in your thoughts. And I'm like, your subconscious mind runs your body. So the body and the somatic work that can be done, what is a tool or an activity or an action step that we can actually put into practice, so that it's not just going to the gym or getting our emotions out in one way through exercise, but through a deepening of our connection to our emotions? Is it just awareness, or is there something deeper that we can access?
I definitely believe in the power of dance. Yeah.
Yes.
And using these beautiful vessels for movements. And being able to feel where we're feeling those trapped emotions and actually use the body in such a way that it's able to bring more power to those spaces, as opposed to feeling disempowered. Because a lot of the time, we even notice our body posture. How do we sit? We've got this slight, it's a couple of centimeters. It could just be the smallest. And your shoulders are, you're crouching, you're leaning in. And as soon as you just put your shoulders back and open up your chest, opening up the chest, automatically you feel your heart opening up. So opening up the chest and bringing in more love into this space and increasing your heart rate at the same time through dance, through movements, and using this femininity that we have. That's everything. So our bodies, through dance and the sensuality and how we can move our bodies, and it's so individual for every woman. And they say there's so many emotions that are trapped in our hips that we carry from past lives, from sexual interactions that we've had that are directly related to our throat chakras, right? And in the way that you are able to express yourself in bed, express yourself through dance, you're able to also bring more power to your voice so that you're able to express yourself with more authenticity and more alignment, as well as more power.
The stored emotion trapped in the hips. I remember I used to say that. Thank you so much, Helene, for reminding me, because I used to say that consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And recently, there was a lot of stress that happened in my life the past 2 years, moving 2 times, losing 3 family members and 2 family friends, having a baby, just a few things. And I had forgotten, and I'd gained some weight around my hips. And since recently, I've just started dancing and enjoying the motion of my hips and enjoying the motion of my femininity. And I've actually taught many of my friends, girlfriends, how to walk in heels, because I said, most women do it wrong, because we walk like men in heels, and that's not how our bodies were designed. That's not actually how heels were designed, even if they were designed by a man. They were designed for us to have a gentle sway in our hips. And the more I'm in contact, the more my hips have actually slimmed, and just allowed the release of the stored emotions that were building up from the past 2 years of a lot of trauma and stress. And that experience of the motion of the sacral basin of our bodies, and with that, getting more alignment in that space. So I mean, as far as my practice for dance, it's just turn on, I have a whole empowerment list of it's called my Becoming a Queen playlist on Spotify. And that's my playlist that I jam, and I'll just dance to those songs. But do you have a practice, or is it just hit the play button on Spotify? How do you do your dance practice?
We need to do one together.
Yes, I completely agree.
So I make sure, first of all, that I have the space to myself. I think that's really key, because it's a connection to your higher self, and you want to be able to release all emotions that come through that in that moment, because it could be crying, it could be laughter, it could be sexual, you feel sexually aroused, it could be so many aspects of yourself. So I make sure that I have the peace and quiet, because I also have 2 kids as well, so they can at any time, and that just disrupts the flow. So having that, I would say, is essential. Secondly, finding a playlist that is inspiring. I actually have one that starts off quite slow and then builds up. So it feels like a heartbeat, how your heart is increasing with the movement. The music is also dancing with you. So there's this beautiful union of music, of sound, of fluidity in the body. And the other thing that I do, I always keep my journal nearby when I dance to jot down downloads, ideas that come to me, because in that moment you are creating, you are connecting to the divine, you're connecting to your higher self, and you get the best ideas, they say, in the shower, don't you? Because that's the moment you actually switch off, and you're not thinking about thinking, you're not thinking about doing anything, you're unwinding. And in those exact moments where you are dancing and expressing yourself, it's a really good space to get a business idea, to think of a partnership that you can have with someone, invent something. There's so much more that goes on energetically that we have no idea about on a scientific level. But I think as women, it's safe to say that we can feel these energies a lot, and they are accessible, and they're definitely accessible through dance.
And I think that's so beautiful that you break that down into having that sacred space. And there's that piece of doing the dancing alone. And then there's also the piece of communal dancing, because tribally, like the two things that have sustained humanity, you go back and it's always storytelling and dancing. They always dance together or they story told together. And there's all these beautiful different variations of dance through all the different types of cultures. Mm-hmm. But what do we gain when we dance in a community?
What I feel personally when we dance in a community, there's a common goal. It's like there's a common intention. So it brings so much more power, energy, manifestation to what you are creating. It's the same like when people come together to pray. That's so powerful. In the same way, when a group of women come together and they dance together, or a community comes together and they dance, there's a common goal of, yes, having fun, enjoying yourself and releasing and just enjoying the process. But there's something a lot more spiritual to it. There's an energy field that I feel like everyone's tapping into at the same time, that again, we can't see, but we all can feel. And that is a beautiful union that we don't have enough of as, whether it's your country, your tribe, your community. I feel like everyone's become quite, everyone's got their own little communities, which is great. But imagine doing this like on an expansive scale, on a huge mass scale of everyone dancing together, or everyone praying together, or everyone coming together. There's so much more power to that union.
I love the idea of the common intention, and you just brought to mind so many ideas that I now have. Just what would it look like if our country just chose to dance together? And even if we're dancing separately, but dancing at the same time and collectively, because there have been studies done with prayer and meditation as far as, suddenly you get a group of people together meditating. And there's been a lot of studies with transcendental meditation. And suddenly crime stops for like the time and duration of the meditation, if not longer. And there's no police sirens. And it's phenomenal, the power of community and the power of our intentions when we come together in that sacred space. And I would just be curious as to what would happen if we all came together in sacred movement. How would that unite us as a people when there's so much division?
Yes, especially at these times. Can you imagine if our government's actually focused on these kind of things? Like if the mainstream media was focusing on bringing people together in this way, as opposed to depicting how we are divided, where we could be as a human race, where we could be as individuals, what kind of lives we would have, what kind of environments would our children grow up in. If they were taught in schools, they were taught meditation, they were taught dance, they were taught about connecting to their bodies, how that would change the next generations to come. And what would crime look like then?
Yeah. Right? You also just brought such a humorous picture of just picturing all the world leaders dancing together.
That would be lovely.
That would be lovely. And then that's a lot of old white men dancing.
That would change the vibe completely, wouldn't it?
I think that's the biggest, being able to bring humor as well, and humor into our lives, and the joy of laughter, of just being able to have a laugh at ourselves.
Absolutely. I think that was one of my biggest lessons in life. I used to take myself very seriously. And when I realized that I had to be able to learn how to take a joke as well as give a joke, life changed.
Yes.
Yeah, the way that I would see the world and the way that I would interact with the world I came from a much more lighthearted space, that I was able to just not take life so seriously. It became so much more fun to live. I didn't have to put on this mask. I didn't have to put on this persona anymore. I could be silly. There are times that you say the most clever thing that comes out of your mouth and you think, wow, that was quite nice. And then sometimes you say the most stupid thing. And that's okay, because we're human and we have all that. But to also be able to laugh at yourself and say, you know what, that was quite funny. And that's okay. And not feel shame and embarrassment and judgment and criticize yourself and break yourself down because, I didn't appear how I thought I wanted to appear.
Mm-hmm.
So laughter is very, very important. Not taking ourselves too seriously.
It's some good medicine, that is for sure. I too struggled with being able to take a joke. And I think there's a big difference, though, between, can you have a laugh at yourself, at your own humanity? And then, are you making fun of yourself at the expense of yourself?
Yes.
I was researching for my book, and I found that the word sarcasm comes from Greek.
Mm-hmm.
And it literally means like to cut the flesh.
The flesh. Sarka is flesh. So therefore, sarcasm.
Yeah. And so what are we doing when I just think of all the comedians that struggle with depression and mental health issues? And if you listen to their comedy, a lot of their jokes are self-deprecating. They're filled with sarcasm, cutting their own flesh. And so how do we have a laugh at ourselves and have that humanity and that grace for ourselves versus, let me make fun of myself from a demeaning, berating way? Is that a dance that we just do in the moment, or is it programming so that we can have that laugh?
I find that there are people that have been taught to tear themselves apart at the expense of making other people around them laugh. It's something that I find that you need to have a lot of self-respect and know who you are to not do. So for me, it's a no-go. It's an absolute no. To be able to not take myself seriously, have a laugh, make a joke, but to diminish myself in order to make other people feel happy, it sounds like I'm self-sabotaging and I'm people-pleasing. Now, if I'm so concerned about people's opinions of me and I'm trying to please them by tearing myself down, then I'm just tearing my confidence apart. I'm tearing myself apart, which is definitely not an empowered place to be. So I definitely think there is a fine line between being able to take a joke, laugh at yourself, but not tear yourself down. And that comes from knowing your own boundaries as well, because I think certain people can take on a little bit more and others have, a shorter, smaller threshold. And it's just about knowing where you stand as a person and how much you can take, and where you say, well, no, that was not acceptable. I'm not going to do that to myself, or I'm not going to accept you to be speaking to me like that. That was not funny. So when your emotions are hurt, to also be able to voice that.
Yeah, that's the ability to hold those boundaries. And I think with laughter, I think the humanity and the joy of not to when I had to reprogram myself to learn how to take a joke and to learn how, not a joke that was crossing a boundary, but a joke that was just like, oh, I really actually did something quite funny and silly and stupid. And it's okay. I'm just like, welcome to humanity. But it was tiny little increments in the beginning of being able to grow that muscle, in essence, to strengthen it, that I could laugh at my imperfections. And the thing that I love in the tarot, the opposite of how you conquer the devil is laughter. And it's when you think, oh, all these chains and all these beliefs are like on me and everything's hard and everything's a struggle and I have to be all these ways. If you just realize that all of those are self-imposed shackles and just give yourself a little laugh that like, I put myself in my own prison. Okay, time to liberate myself. That's the beauty of this evolution. So what does it mean to really be in your sovereign power?
Oh, that's a really good and big question. I think there are so many parts to being in your sovereign power. I think it's really understanding who you are, first of all. Not what you've been taught by your parents, by women around you, by mothers before you, by other businesswomen, how you need to show up in the world. And that comes with being able to self-reflect and understand that, in fact, if I am not believing in everything that I have been taught, then what do I believe? And if I don't believe everything that I've been shown, then who am I without those beliefs? And discovering who you are without all of those strings attached, all of those shackles around you, takes courage, takes a huge sense of inner strength and confidence to be able to say, to be able to question, first of all, and to be able to redefine everything that serves you and everything that doesn't serve you. And when you understand where you lie within those aspects, you can also show up as your most sovereign, authentic self, because you're able to say, okay, well, if I have decided that that belief doesn't work for me and what I have been told by X, Y, and Z, or the way that I have been doing everything in my life isn't me, and I'm going to show up in this way, then I'm bringing an element of Helene, I'm bringing an element of Kim into it. And that's where you are personalizing how you want to live this life. You're questioning, of course, in the process, which causes a lot of resistance, which is not easy. It takes courage. But it's the only way that you can actually be free and be able to step in your full sovereign power.
I mean, questions are so powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the greatest fears that I've noticed that people have in questioning is they're so scared to have been wrong about who they have been, and also scared about the guilt that could come from how they were being when they were who they were, doing as they thought they should do, or doing as that belief guided them to do, that they no longer are wanting to believe. So is it guilt that we need to deal with first, or is it the fear of being wrong, or how do we move through that dance?
That is a tough process. That is really a tough process, because we do carry a lot of guilt and shame around who we were. And it's almost like you require permission from yourself to be able to step into this new version of you. And most of us also are looking for permission from our inner circle, from the people that are around us. And when you've changed and people are not, they don't resonate with you anymore, and you are looking for their validation, there's a lot of guilt that comes with that, because you're realizing you're not able to connect with the same people. You're not able to be your old self. People are saying, well, you know what? You've changed. And that comes as criticism. It doesn't come as, you've changed, well done. Like, you've actually outgrown me, so therefore carry on. It comes with criticism and judgment, because I think it creates fear in the people around you that perhaps you're going to leave them, that you are going to grow, and it brings up emotions to the people that are around you that perhaps they don't want to deal with yet as well. So with that being said, the guilt comes from, if you've made a decision that you want to change, because we all change. And that's something that, if I'm honest, I'm actually going through right now. I am changing after I've already changed, and I'm thinking, God, how many times can you possibly change, woman? You know, like, you are, you know, it's a hard process, because you're also questioning everything. So you're rediscovering yourself, and it takes time. And I think there's a time period that people don't speak about, which is the time period where you used to be and where you're going to be. There's a gap right there that you're figuring it out. And that's where guilt comes in. That's where fear of being wrong comes in. And it's in those moments that you need to just keep pushing through. Even if you don't know where you're going, you just need to keep pushing through to find that new version of you and be able to release that guilt and let go of the idea that you will be wrong, because we'll always be wrong, and that's okay. I think being wrong is one of the most scrutinized things that we as humans have done to ourselves. But in fact, if we were able to embrace this concept of being wrong, then we would actually be able to grow so much more, and people would have so much more confidence and courage to be and try whatever it is that they have in their hearts. I remember it was Sarah that has Spanx.
Yes.
That said, she would come home every day and her dad would ask her, how have you failed today? That was the question that they were asked every day at the dinner table. And it was perceived as, you know, you've done something well if you failed. You've done something well if you're wrong. And therefore, in that programming of hers, that's where, you know, she was able to try different companies and keep showing up for Spanx when it wasn't doing well. Therefore, she ended up being able to have Spanx and support a business like that, because there was that lack of fear. I wouldn't even say lack, because I think fear always kicks in at some point, but it's just about reminding yourself that the power that you have is stronger than the fear.
So when you're in that space of pushing through, leaping over that gap, what is it that you focus on?
I would say your intuition and your heart. They are one of our strongest guiding powers. They're always giving you signals of where you need to be going all the time. Now, whether we choose to listen or not, those are two different things, but they're always sending you signs and signals of what truly feels right and aligned. And the more we're able to tap in and actually listen to our intuition and what really feels right for Helene, for Kimberly, for X, Y, Z, then we're able to keep pushing through that light, because you're always going to have voices telling you differently, but your heart and your intuition know the way.
And we have been, here in the Western world, we have been so taught to disassociate and value the power of the mind and logic and conscious reasoning, which has its place. But with the heart and with intuition, that is how we're able to quantum leap. That is how we're able to suddenly, I wanted this, and now a year later, suddenly that's where I am. Like we quantum leaped recently with buying our house, and I'm like, this, like, I'm looking around, I'm just in amazement. I'm like, oh my gosh. But it came from listening to our intuition and also being very clear and specific with what it is that we wanted. Now, for those that have prized logic, for those that have prized being in their head and they're thinking stuff, how do they learn to access the power of intuition through the body?
I definitely think that takes practice. It takes practice because everything's a muscle. Everything's a muscle that you need to keep remembering. You are constantly remembering. And what the mind does, it keeps reminding us to forget. So the heart is always there. And I think every single one of us deep down knows the answer. Whether we have been so focused on, getting access to the mind and improving our mindset, we truly know that there's something else governing this mind. So for the people that are really focused on using logic and the mind to function, I really recommend meditation. Meditation is one of those things that I feel like there is enough evidence right now to support those logical thinkers, those mindset achievers, that it's one of the most important tools that you can use to quiet the mind, therefore taking you out of the mind and into the body. So I would definitely say meditation. Another way that I have found has really helped my clients has been breathwork as well, because breathwork is active meditation. So therefore you're doing something. So that's for all the doers out there, the action takers, the people who think, well, it can't be working if I'm not doing anything. So therefore, when you're breathing, it takes a lot of cognitive abilities to continuously breathe. We're talking about an hour session of continuous breath. So therefore, your body's reacting to it, but you are consciously breathing. And that really takes you out of your mind and into your body having a transcendental experience. So if someone, I hear many people say, I can't meditate. It's really hard for me to meditate. I can't sit still. Breathwork is another great alternative.
And you combine breathwork with ice bath.
Yeah.
Which I am still trying to get my husband to do, but there is no way. Well, I mean, I'm not going to say ever because I believe in possibility.
There is a possibility. I hated the cold. Yeah. I lived in Saudi Arabia because I loved the heat so much. I could sit and sunbathe in 40 degrees Celsius. I absolutely love the heat. And if I was to go anywhere near the cold, I would have said, if you'd asked me 3 years ago, I would have said, I would never, ever get into the ice. You must be crazy. So there is hope. There is absolute hope there. And we combine the ice baths and the breath work together simply because breath work helps regulate your nervous system. It takes you out of your fight and flight response and back into your parasympathetic nervous system, allowing you to feel that the world is safe, that you are able to overcome anything that comes your way. And we then immerse our clients, our participants into the ice. And
before or after?
First we do the breath work.
Okay.
Actually, the way that we've done ice baths has been very, I would say we also bring elements of shamanism into it. So we do a lot of smudging, calling in our guides, and then starting the experience. So there's this portal that we create that when people enter, they're just like, we're only in the backyard with grass, but there is this element of love, and that is the intention when we create all of our spaces, for people to be able to just let go of whoever they are and whatever problems they have outside the door. And then when they come in, they're able to just remember who they are, which we're all love in essence at the end of the day. And we all have access to be able to connect to that, but we just forget. So when they come into our spaces, that is the main intention, to be able to bring them back to their hearts, to connect to the love within themselves, to the love within the space, and the love within, the community, the people there. So we do the breath work, we get them to lie down, we have incredible music coming through. So you're having all your senses are being stimulated in the moment. You're sitting in the grass, you're connecting to Mother Earth, you're hearing the sounds, sound healing, you are breathing, you're smelling the scents of sage, and you're able to completely go deep into your subconscious mind and trust the process. Now, when they open their eyes, they're then faced with the ice. And one of the things that I say is, your mind is always going to try and trick you. So once you enter the ice, your brain is going to say, get the fuck out of here. You are not safe. Like, get out of this ice. That's the first thing that your mind will say to you. Now, when you are able to override that voice that is trying to trick you, essentially, and tell you you're not able to do it, which is the exact same voice that comes up in every single scenario in our lives, says, you're not good enough, you're not able to, it's too cold, you can't do this, you're not enough. That's the exact same voice that you are overriding by staying in the ice. Because when you've sat there for 3 minutes and you are feeling euphoria, you are feeling so elated, and you've realized, shit, I've done it, then you think, well, who was that voice? What was that voice actually telling me? Because if I can override that voice in that moment, then in every area of my life, I have access to doing that. Hence why I absolutely love the ice baths.
I love, believe me, as a marathon runner, like, I have loved a good ice bath. Just being able to go in, and even just a cold bath. Like, when I was training for my last marathon, I did my first 10 miles in 6 years, and I just immediately knew my body was like being cold. And so I just turned on a cold bath, and I didn't have any ice at the time, but I dove in, and it is cold and it is challenging. And when you override that voice in your head, you will feel so empowered. Yeah. It's like how I felt when I gave natural childbirth. That was just because your brain is like, no, it'll say the things, and suddenly you'll have the programming. But if you can laugh at the cultural programming that says that women shouldn't or aren't, or you can't do this. I'm like, well, what did they do before epidurals? They've been giving birth for a long time before that. So being able to recognize our innate power that we have to grow and to like surpass that voice. What else do you do to surpass that voice beyond ice baths, breath work, dancing? Is there anything else? Meditation?
I sing. I love singing. So recently I've gone back into singing. I used to sing up to the age of 17, and then I decided that I was going to be a chartered surveyor, and I went and studied real estate and finance. And very quickly I realized I was not going to stay in the corporate world. I had to create a world where I could function at my best. And therefore, I took a break of about 10 years of not singing. And with time and working on my hips and moving the energy, and then recognizing, there may be stored emotions in the throat, I found that using the voice and voice activation has been a very powerful tool for me to feel empowered, to be able to get over the idea of stage frights, to be able to sing and use all the the abilities that we have. We can all sing. Every single one of us can sing. When people say, I can't sing, that's not true. It's just, it's a muscle that hasn't been practiced, but we all have that ability to be able to sing. And it's one of the most liberating feelings to be able to tap into. One of the most liberating ways to express yourself, to just release energy. And also, it's a great way to learn how to say what you're thinking.
That is true. It is a powerful healing modality. I was a musical theater nerd, and I was absolutely in high school, just like star of the show, like loved all musical theater, and it was my way of being able to express things that I did not yet allow myself to feel, and that I did not yet allow myself to process emotionally, but I could process them within the safety of a song or a character.
Yeah.
And that was incredibly healing. So I love the fact that you're singing. What's your favorite thing to sing?
I actually do holographic sound healing, so I work with the sound bowls as well. And I came to the States. I came to Denver, Colorado to learn this practice. And it's a combination of sounds that don't make sense. I wouldn't say, there are no words to it, but it almost feels like you are singing another language. That's what I feel like when I'm doing it. And that is one of my favorite ways to sing currently. So combining it with the sound bowls, the crystal sound bowls, and adding my voice to it. It actually sounds like you've got different mics in different places because the shape of the bowl. So you're getting like a 3D, well, I would say 5D experience of someone singing for you.
So beautiful. I look forward to hearing it one day.
Oh, I would love to have you. I would love to meet you in person. You remind me so much of me.
Vice versa.
Right?
Yes.
Yes.
And I think it's so beautiful when two queens can see each other, because that let this further prove the law of oneness of how from across the world that two people can still see each other in their power. And I think that's it's one of the reasons why I love podcasting. It's one of the reasons why I have loved this journey of internationally building my business, because it has allowed me to see so many beautiful humans who have so many rich gifts that they're offering their world. And I am so grateful that you didn't get sucked into the corporate black hole, and that you are shining your light now in how you're doing it. How do you show up as a mother fully embodied?
I would say that with my children, one of the things that I've learned along the way is that I needed to figure out how to do it in my own way once again. And that means being very present with them when I am with them, but also making sure that I am 100% able to make space for myself. So I say that being selfish is actually one of the best lessons I can teach them. That way, I know that my daughter will make sure that she puts herself first, and that my son, when he sees a queen that needs space for herself and knows how to manage that, he will also be able to give her that and make himself a priority when he needs to, as well as respect other people when they need that. So for me, that has been one of my key lessons in motherhood and navigating being a mom, which I still can't believe. I don't feel like I'm a mom. I feel like they don't belong to me. But sometimes I live this life, and then they kind of appear, and they're like, I'm so grateful to have you as well. It's this, there's this disbelief around it that I'm a mom.
Yeah, becoming a mother for me was it was such an obvious thing for me. Like, I know some women who have chosen not to have children, like they are very clear on that decision. For me, I was very clear on my decision that I knew motherhood would always be a part of that. And as my one of my best friends said, she said, "You've birthed two boys, so no one's yet usurped your reign." So I don't yet have a girl, but I do have two beautiful, amazing boys, and they have been such a blessing. They are my best coaches to see how I can show up and honor myself and use my voice more boldly, because my 6-year-old double Leo manifester human design, like, he has no problem with it. Teaches me every day. And then my other one teaches me just a level of such deep sympathetic compassion. And I think that shunning the cultural programming of that parenting is me only on them. I'm like, they parent me right back of showing me how to be more present, how to be more compassionate, how to be more embodied. My little 2-year-old, he just falls asleep by stroking my arm. And it's the most beautiful experience to just have that reminder of softness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Helene, I have loved our conversation. I am so excited to meet you one day. I am so excited because it is happening.
When we meet.
The
intention is there.
The intention is absolutely there. I would love to shift into a little bit of rapid fire. Would you be down for that?
Okay, yes.
Okay. Who is your favorite female character in a book or a movie, and why?
I would say it's Mulan.
I love Mulan.
Yeah. She embraces femininity as well as power all in one.
I love it. I think you're the first person to say Mulan in over 200 episodes. And I'm like, I love Mulan.
I think I've been watching a lot of cartoons with my kid.
Yes. Yeah. It comes to mind. I'm like reliving my own childhood of Disney princesses with this. What woman would you want to trade places with, alive or alive in her time, so historical as well, just for a day, to live in her body, see how she thought, be in her mind, lead how she leads?
Ooh. God, so many coming. Does it have to be one? Okay. Oprah Winfrey.
Yes. Yes.
Because I love what she stands for. She has done things her way. She's not had it easy, and she's very inspiring with who she is and what she represents.
Amazing. What is your morning routine?
My morning routine. So I make sure that I never touch my phone in the mornings. The first thing that I do is I put on my bikini, I lie down, I do my breath work, my meditation, and then I get into the ice. So before my brain's awake, I'm already doing the thing that I need to be doing and getting my mind and body into the state that it should be for the rest of the day.
And so I take it that you have an ice bath in your home.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So I recently bought a freezer that I had to. I've been wanting to. It's been on my wish list for so long, because obviously there's always the obstacle of having to buy the ice and then set up the ice. There's always an excuse. But if you have it there, you don't have the excuse anymore. So therefore, it's become part of my morning routine.
Wow. That is bold. That is bold. What is your evening routine to set you up for such a chilling morning?
So my evening routine, I can improve on that. I need to add in a little bit more sleep, but my evening routine, we have this ritual that we do with Stefan, my husband, where when he comes home from work, I make sure that the kids are in bed. My kids go to bed early. Like, having routine and structure for them and for me has been vital in order for me to have peace of mind at night and be able to unwind and just to have space to be able to think. And therefore, we actually do a lot of talking. We sit and talk about our day and connect to one another. So it's really the time for either journaling, a little bit of meditation, and relationship, I would say.
It's beautiful. My husband and I are very similar.
Yeah.
Do a lot of talking at night once the kids are asleep. Talking. Sometimes we watch a show, but recently I've just been so disenfranchised by anything, even like a cute little funny 30-minute show. I'm like, I'd much rather just talk to him. There's with so much going on and so many and 2 children, it's the connection time between yourself and your partner is so vital.
It's key. And I think most people forget that a relationship, just because it's been good, you can just, you just assume that it's always going to be good. But you can get lost along the way. You lose yourself along the way, let alone your partner. So if you don't make time for that, like you make time for the gym, then that can also end up in a direction that you're no longer there with your partner. So making time for that is key. So I love how you do it as well.
Yeah. What do you define to be your kingdom or your queendom?
My body. That's what I would say.
And lastly, how do you crown yourself?
By always putting me first. Always checking in with myself, what it is that I need first, doing that.
Helene, how do we work with you? How do we get in on your retreat in Cyprus?
Yeah.
You have many amazing things coming up.
So we have our website that's it's on drstefanos.com, that you can find the information on there. And we have, so I've got a one-on-one sessions as well that you can book. I have a Calendly link on my Instagram. So if you follow me on Instagram I am Helene Alexi Ioannides. I know that's a handful.
It'll be in the description.
You'll find a link in my bio with all the information there on retreats, events, one-on-one sessions.
Amazing. Helene, it has been such a pleasure getting to know you, and I look forward to dancing with you someday.
Thank you so much, Kimberly, for having me on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'm honored to have met another queen, and to be able to share so much in common from across the world. So thank you so much for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you. Although we don't know each other, we've been talking for an hour, and it feels like we've known each other, that we've had these conversations that have just been so fluid.
Amazing. And maybe we have past life. Maybe we have. As always, my fellow sovereigns, own your throne, mind your business, because your reign is now.
Thank you so much for tuning in today. If what you heard resonated with you, be sure to subscribe and start creating a bigger impact now by sharing this with a friend. Just by doing that one simple act of kindness, you are creating a royal ripple to support more people in their sovereignty. And if you're not already following on social media, connect with me everywhere at crownyourself.now for more inspiration. I am so excited to connect with you in the next episode. And in the meantime, go out there and create a body, business, and life that rules. Because today, you crown yourself.